Being a teenager is tough. We forget that sometimes. We get so caught up in grown-up problems that we forget that things that seem trivial to us could be their entire world. But you can help them define what success looks like in their life. You can be an asset to their growth. You can be the support that they need to launch into adulthood with the best possible chance of flourishing. But all of that is reliant on you being someone that they feel comfortable turning to. I'm Paul for Rock Solid Refuge. In crisis, start here. We have a lot to cover in this video, so I'm just going to get into it. I've got 3 things that I want to touch on before we're done: honesty, goal setting, and movement. Honesty goes beyond the realm of true and false. It enters more broadly into the concept of trust. Does your kid trust you? If they tell you something, is that information safe, or is it going to be used against them? If they believe, even for a moment, that you're going to use it against them, 9 times out of 10, you gotta clam up, not gotta say anything. When they're talking, they're also watching your body language for signs that you're going to shame them for what they're saying, that you are going to go on the attack. So you need to remember the basics of communication and be aware of what you are unconsciously communicating to them. Like with listening, you have to be both trustworthy and demonstrate trustworthiness. If they ask you questions, answer them honestly. And that can be really tricky for a parent to do. There are things that they may ask that we want to answer, well, that's really none of your business. You don't need to worry about that. Questions about money, for example. The goal with these tough questions is to be transparent without burdening them. If money's tight and they're asking you about it, you don't open up your pay stub and then go through like a detailed income and expenditure spreadsheet, right? What you can do is you can admit, times are tough. We've given up a few things, but we're going to get through it. If it's relationship struggles with your spouse, well, that's a good opportunity to talk about, relationships are complex. It's not the happily ever after that you see in fairy tales, but I believe that hard times can make us better people and bring people closer together in the long term. You'll want to address the core issues at the heart of your kid's concern, not the specifics of the problem, if that makes sense. They certainly shouldn't feel like they're responsible for the problem, but they also shouldn't feel responsible for finding a solution to it either. So transparency without burden. This whole trust thing can be fostered through respect, which we talked about briefly in the previous video. We talked about authority, relational influence, and role modeling. Respect is taught through role modeling. If your kid only ever sees you talking disrespectfully about others or to others, they're going to do the same. So treat everyone with respect, whether they're your boss, a server at a restaurant, or a family member. Remember to respect your kid as well. I talked in the last video about parents who demanded respect before giving respect. Remember, you're the adult. You need to lead by example. And one way to demonstrate that respect, that you respect your child rather, is actually through responsibility. By giving your kid responsibilities, you are implicitly saying, I trust you to not only perform this task, but to perform it well. You're including them in the family rather than allowing them to exist as an outsider supported by the family. And this means coming alongside them in the tasks as well, not simply assigning them chores and then abandoning them to it. You want your son to wash dishes? Be the person who dries and puts them away. You want him to mow the lawn? Grab the weed whacker and start getting to places that the lawnmower can't reach. You're doing a few things when you do this with your kid. First, sure, you're supervising them, so you know that the job is getting done, but you're building relationship. You're working together to achieve a small, family-centric goal. By being present, you're able to teach, encourage, and correct in the moment, rather than sending him back out to mow the lawn again if he comes back inside and it's a disaster. By being there in the moment, you are creating the opportunity for success rather than setting up the next crisis. That is role modeling respectful behavior. Perhaps one of the simplest ways to demonstrate respect is to have the tough conversations one-on-one. You're not bringing it up at the dinner table. You're not tearing them down in front of the family or peers or anyone else. You're not looking to use their shortcomings as an opportunity to shame them, but to build them up. Once you have that honesty, once you have trust flowing in both directions, you can begin to pour into their lives. Most teens struggle with their place in the world. This is, in some ways, the essence of being a teenager. They're no longer content with being identified primarily as a member of your family. They want to understand who they are in the greater context. Who are they among their peers? Who are they in their online, in their social communities, within their community even? A lot of this aimlessness can come from a lack of purpose. Now, as a parent, you're able to provide direction on how to set goals, but you're also a possible advocate or support in achieving those goals. So how do we help our teens set these goals? Let's go back to the first video on communication. You're listening more than you're speaking. You're providing guidance, but not actively telling them what to do. In order for a person, teen or otherwise, to be fully motivated to achieve a goal, they need to be the ones who propose the goal. Again, you guide them. You help them clarify the goal. You help them create the steps necessary to completing the goal. So if you're helping your teen set positive goals, you're not coming to them with a list of things that you want them to achieve and the steps that you know they need to take to achieve it. You're coming to them to help facilitate a conversation about what they want out of life. It's less, what do you want to do? And more, what impact do you want to have on the world? This will likely require a little bit of digging because the thing that they want may be a contemporary expression of an ancient desire. So if they say, I want to be a social media influencer, it's a surprisingly popular desired profession, it may in reality be, I want to foster community, or I want my thoughts to matter, or I want something for nothing, which, if we're being fair, really something for nothing boils down to something more like, I want to feel financially secure. Once we understand what their deeper desires are, we can guide the teen to goals that can also provide for these needs. Now, your kid may not be thinking long term, right? Their goal may be as simple as, I want this new pair of luxury shoes. Now, how you guide your teen to those big picture goals is very similar to how you guide them in these smaller goals. You break the goals down into attainable steps. In order to buy the shoes, first you need money. In order to get money, you need a job. In order to get a job, you need to be able to drive. So the first step to those new shoes is you need to get a driver's license. Now, remember, you're facilitating this conversation, asking questions, all that. You're not just laying out for your kid like I just did for you. You're letting them connect the dots so that they can be the ones to set the goals, to learn to set goals, and to learn to create these mini steps to get there. So we have our first mini step now, right? Get a license. Okay, what steps do you need to take to get your license? Well, you need to study. You need to make an appointment. You need to pass a test. Now remember, you are a part of their resources to achieve these goals. So what can you do? How can you help without just doing everything for them? Remember, responsibility is an expression of respect. This is their responsibility, not yours. you can offer to drive them to the appointment, or you can quiz them on the upcoming test. If it's a practical test, take them out driving. Maybe you could pay for the first test, and if they fail their first test, tell them, hey, I'll pay for the second test if you study the material for 5 hours. See, you're giving them the tools that they need to succeed. You're not sheltering them from failure or removing the consequences of failure. Achieving these goals is about small steps, small victories. This is movement, and movement is the next big thing that I want to touch on here. Here's a phenomenal little trick. All right. In order to make something more appealing, we want to help your teen focus on the positive aspects of something that they might dislike. But have you ever tried saying, oh, come on, family dinners aren't that bad. Tell me something good about having dinner with the family. Oof. We naturally push against that, right? Not just teens, but adults too. Just look on the bright side. No. Now this trick, it's a weird subversion of this. But you ask them, something like, hey, scale of 1 to 10, how good are family dinners? 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, right? It's just the best time. Now, most of the time, if it's something they really don't like, they'll answer a 2 or a 3. The trick here is ask them, why isn't it lower? It's a 3? Well, why not a 2? It's a 2? Why not a 1? This allows them the opportunity to be negative while also focusing on the positive. The food's good at least. This also works with things like scale of 1 to 10, how good was your day? It actually lets you bypass a negative response of just look on the bright side, while still accomplishing the focus on positivity, right? Having that sliding scale is also helpful in seeing movement in our teens. So using that family dinner as an example, a lot of parents would want their kid to be excited for family dinner at the table. Most teens, not excited at the prospect of spending time with the family. The parent wants them to be an 8 or a 9, just immediately. But wanting or expecting a complete turnaround from a 2 or a 3 to an 8 or a 9, you're setting them up for failure and crisis. Instead, look for a way to find improvement. How do we make a 2 a 3? How do we make a 3 a 4? Again, it all comes down to communication. Sit down with this problem in mind and look for a way to solve it together. Okay, so you've said you're a 3 and you like the food. Great. We can work with that. So how do we get you up to a 4 without compromising our no phones at the table rule? What's something that we can do to make this just a little bit better for you? And that's what you work towards. Not the complete 180 turnaround, just a small step in the right direction. That's movement. That's improvement. And it's attainable. It's just like setting goals with your kid. Your goal may be for them to be an 8 on that scale. That's a big gap between 2 and 8. Your first mini goal, get them to 3. Then, get them to 4. It may be months before they're even a 5. They may never even reach 8 until they're adults coming home for Christmas. Let these goals be held with an open hand and celebrate, even privately, the improvements that you see. Acknowledge and praise the positive movement, probably one-on-one with them. Just don't take it for granted. All right. We've gone on for a long time here, so quick recap. Ready? First, we talked about honesty and openness with your kid. This means transparency without burden. A key way to foster this two-way street of trust is through respect, responsibility, relationship. Second, goal setting. Help them uncover the deeper desire behind their big picture goals and help provide structure for the small steps needed to achieve goals, both big and small. Remember, you are an asset to them in the achievement of these goals, but you're giving them the tools that they need to succeed, not sheltering them from failure or removing the consequences of failure. Third, movement is about small steps in the right direction. It will take time. Don't frustrate yourself by expecting quick fixes. Even if you implement the strategies we're talking about, use scaling questions 1 to 10 to help you understand where your teen is at and what you can do to move them even one step into better function. Now, this has been a lot of information, but hopefully you're seeing how the things that we've talked about in the past 3 videos are all connected. In fact, a number of the things that we talked about in this video are simply the application of principles from the first communication video. We've covered a lot, and in the next video, we're going to talk about something that you've likely noticed has been missing from these first videos. We're going to talk about boundaries, consequences, and the teen's desire ultimately for independence. In crisis, start here.